Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the dark side of crime, the channel where we dive deep into the most chilling and unsettling true crime stories. We go beyond the headlines, unraveling the twisted details, the shocking truths, and the dark mysteries that leave us questioning the world we live in. From unsolved disappearances to the sinister motives behind heinous acts, we explore it all. Each case we cover reveals something hidden beneath the surface, and no stone is left unturned. Get ready for gripping tales, complex criminals, and stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you're drawn to the darkest corners of human nature and love uncovering the truth behind the most infamous crimes, then hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more deep dives into the criminal world. Chapter 1. The Calm. Before the storm, it was a typical day in the small, tight-knit town of Leeton, where everyone knew everyone else. Nestled in rural New South Wales, Leeton was the kind of place where life moved at a slower pace, and neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles. For Stephanie Scott, this peaceful town had been home for most of her life. She had been a teacher at Leeton High School, a role that she cherished deeply. As a dedicated English and drama teacher, she had built lasting relationships with her students and colleagues. Stephanie had always been the type to go the extra mile for her students. She would stay after hours to help them with assignments, often offering her time for one-on-one coaching sessions. Her passion for teaching was evident in everything she did, and it didn't go unnoticed. Her students loved her not just because of her intellect, but for her warmth and patience. She wasn't just a teacher. She was a friend, a mentor, and a guiding light for many young minds. The air was filled with excitement as April 11th, the day of her wedding to Aaron, grew closer. The couple had been together for years. Their love story had begun when they were both teenagers, growing up in the same town, spending their days playing sports together. As they grew older, their friendship evolved into something deeper, something undeniable. By the time Aaron turned 21, their relationship had blossomed into a beautiful romance. The bond they shared was unshakable, and the love between them was clear to anyone who saw them together. Aaron, a kind and devoted man, was equally excited for their big day. He spent hours helping Stephanie with wedding preparations, eagerly looking forward to the life they would build together. The wedding was set for April 11th, just days away, and everything had been meticulously planned. Stephanie had booked their honeymoon to Tahiti, the perfect getaway for the newlyweds. Every detail, from the wedding venue to the flowers and the cake, had been carefully selected. As April 5th arrived, Stephanie found herself caught up in the final preparations. The wedding was nearly here, but there were still a few loose ends to tie up. That Easter Sunday morning, she headed to the school to finish some work. Despite the looming excitement of her wedding, she didn't want to leave anything to chance. She arrived at Leeton High School early in the day, parked her car outside, and headed inside to meet her colleague. There was no sign of the dark twist that was about to unfold. She locked the gates behind her, went to the staff room, and began her work. She was calm and focused, determined to ensure that her students wouldn't be left in the lurch during her absence. For Stephanie, her career and her students were her top priorities. She believed in the power of education and often went above and beyond to ensure her students felt supported. Her lessons weren't just about books, they were about life. She had a gift for making every class feel personal, engaging her students in ways that made them want to do their best. Chapter 2. A Disturbing Disappearance. By the time the afternoon rolled around, Stephanie had completed all of her work. She sent off some final emails confirming the transportation for her wedding guests and checked off the last of her to-do list. Satisfied that everything was in order, she packed up her things and headed for the gates. Her car was still parked outside, but Stephanie never made it back home. Aaron, who had been texting her throughout the day, noticed her silence. At first, he shrugged it off, assuming she was busy with last-minute tasks for the wedding. But as the hours passed and she still didn't respond, a feeling of unease started to settle in. By 7:30 p.m., Aaron grew frantic. It was completely out of character for Stephanie not to respond. They had been texting constantly, and she had been looking forward to their wedding with more enthusiasm than he'd ever seen before. He called her family, hoping that they had heard from her, but no one had. Stephanie had been talking about her wedding plans with her family and students the day before, her excitement palpable, her eyes alight with joy. It was hard to imagine what could have gone wrong. Aaron's concern deepened as time passed. Stephanie's car was nowhere to be seen outside their house, and despite his numerous attempts to reach her, there was nothing. By 9 p.m., Aaron knew something was wrong. He called the police and reported Stephanie missing. The police in Leeton, a town where crime was rare, were immediately on alert. The search began immediately, with helicopters dispatched to search the surrounding fields and rural roads. The officers began by retracing Stephanie's steps, heading to Leeton High School. There, they confirmed that Stephanie had been at the school earlier that day, but after disarming the security alarm at 1:30 p.m., there had been no sign of her. The last trace was a simple email sent from her phone to confirm the transport for the wedding, and after that, nothing. Chapter 3. The Chilling Revelations. As the investigation progressed, the police quickly began focusing on Vincent Stanford, the school's cleaner. His behavior was suspicious from the start. On the morning of April 6th, a witness came forward saying they had heard strange noises near the school, a sound of something being dragged across the ground. They also recalled seeing Stephanie's car parked under a covered walkway that afternoon. It was a small detail, but one that stood out when combined with the strange behavior of Vincent Stanford. The 24-year-old cleaner was known around town to be quiet, reclusive, and a little odd. He had only been working at the school for a short time, and despite his odd demeanor, no one had thought much of him. But when the witness reported hearing strange noises, the police realized they had to dig deeper into Vincent's actions. Vincent was brought in for questioning, and his responses were concerning. He claimed to have been cleaning bins at the school, but his story didn't quite add up. His car had been seen leaving the school grounds shortly after 3:30 p.m., and there were reports that he had been acting strangely the entire day. When the police began checking his alibi, they found several discrepancies in his story. He told investigators he had gone to a store to purchase food, but the store had been closed on Easter Sunday. His attempts to explain away his whereabouts became increasingly suspicious. Chapter 4. The Sinister Confession. By April the 7th, Vincent Stanford was arrested. The evidence against him was mounting, and the police had found disturbing photographs on his camera, a series of images depicting a burned female corpse lying in a wooded area. Though Vincent tried to explain them as just from a movie, his explanations fell apart when police confirmed that the body in the photos was indeed Stephanie. In the following hours, Vincent's confession was chilling. He admitted to having a compulsive desire to kill her. When asked why he chose Stephanie, he explained that he simply wanted to kill someone. There was no emotion in his voice, no remorse. He spoke of having violent thoughts for years, and even though he had never acted on them before, Stephanie was the victim of his twisted impulses. The details were horrific. Vincent confessed that he had grabbed Stephanie as she was leaving the school, pulling her into a storage room. There, he attacked her, killing her with his bare hands, before strangling her to death with a rope. Chapter 5. The Search for Stephanie's Body. The police, though armed with Vincent Stanford's confession, still had one crucial thing to find: Stephanie Scott's body. While the evidence was mounting, the police were deeply committed to recovering Stephanie's remains to provide her family with the closure they desperately needed. The days passed with a mix of hope and dread hanging over the community. Aaron sat by the phone, waiting for any update from the police. Each moment felt like an eternity. He had not left his house for days, unwilling to face the reality that the love of his life might be gone forever. He had told Stephanie repeatedly how much he loved her, how excited he was for their future together. They had been talking about the wedding for months, making plans for a long life filled with joy and shared dreams. But now, as he sat there, overwhelmed with grief, Aaron could only pray that Stephanie would be found alive. Each passing hour added to the heavy weight on his chest, the uncertainty pulling him deeper into despair. He couldn't bring himself to believe that she was gone. How could someone so full of life, so loving and kind, be taken from him in such a cruel way? While Aaron stayed home, struggling to keep himself together, the search for Stephanie's body continued relentlessly. The police had expanded their search area, knowing that the vast terrain of Cocopara National Park would not make the recovery easy. Their resolve was unwavering. Stephanie's family, too, stayed close to the investigation, holding on to the smallest of hopes. But then, just when it seemed that the search would have no end, April 10th brought a breakthrough. It was a witness, a local man, who had noticed a man acting suspiciously near the canal. He saw Vincent Stanford throw something into the water before speeding off. The police immediately seized the opportunity, sending divers into the water to recover any potential evidence. As they dove beneath the surface, the divers recovered a laptop that had belonged to Stephanie. This confirmed that they were in the right area, and soon after they discovered her burned body. The relief, in one sense, was overwhelming. Finally, they had found her, but it was accompanied by profound sorrow. The search was over, but the heartbreaking truth was now undeniable. When the news reached Aaron, his heart shattered. The pain he felt was immeasurable. Even though he had feared the worst, the confirmation that his fiancé was dead, her body discarded so carelessly, was too much to bear. He could hardly wrap his mind around it. How could Vincent Stanford, someone who had been part of the community, someone who had cleaned the same halls where Stephanie had taught, be capable of such a monstrous act? Chapter 6. The motive unfolds. As investigators dug deeper into Vincent's background, they uncovered more and more disturbing details about his past. The more they learned, the more chilling it became. Vincent Stanford had never shown his true self to the community, hiding his darkness beneath a veil of normalcy. But the evidence began to unravel a twisted story. Vincent, born with a troubled mind, had always struggled with violent impulses. Even as a child, he had been aggressive and erratic. He had choked a teacher when he was only 12 years old, and his classmates had given him the nickname Psycho. His behavior had been so concerning that he was placed in a behavior school for a time. Yet, even then, he had shown little remorse for his actions. He was a person void of empathy, someone who, according to experts, seemed incapable of forming genuine emotional connections. Despite being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and oppositional defiant disorder, Vincent had never received the help he needed. He was never properly treated, never given the guidance or therapy to help him control his impulses. Instead, he was pushed through life, falling into job after job without ever truly fitting in. His most recent job, as a cleaner at Leeton High School, provided him with the perfect opportunity to satisfy his obsessions. It gave him access to young girls and, more disturbingly, allowed him to watch them in private spaces, such as the girls' bathrooms during lunch breaks. The idea that he was lurking in places where students felt safe was a horrifying realization for those who worked at the school. When Vincent first started at the school, his colleagues described him as shy, often isolating himself from others. But no one knew the dark thoughts that simmered beneath the surface, nor the violence he was capable of. The photos found on his phone were even more revealing. He had stalked a 12-year-old girl in the town, tracking her movements, and even keeping detailed notes about when she was home alone. His obsession with her had escalated to the point that he had planned to abduct her. But for reasons unknown, he changed his target at the last moment and decided to focus on Stephanie Scott instead. Why Stephanie? What had drawn him to her, a woman so full of life, so hopeful for the future? The police could only guess, but it seemed that for Vincent, she was the next victim in a string of predatory desires. He had fantasized about this moment for weeks, perhaps even longer, and on that Easter Sunday, he finally acted on those dark impulses ending Stephanie's life in the most brutal and senseless way. Chapter 7. The Aftermath and Family's Grief. The aftermath of Stephanie's death reverberated throughout the entire town of Leeton. For Aaron, the pain was unimaginable. How could a man like Vincent Stanford take away the woman he loved? How could someone so cold, so heartless, destroy their plans for a future? The weight of it all nearly broke him, but he knew he had to keep moving, for himself and for Stephanie's family, who were now grieving the loss of their daughter, their sister. Stephanie's family was also devastated. Her mother, Marilyn, had always known her daughter was special. She had watched her grow from a child with a love for books and learning to a young woman who inspired everyone around her. Stephanie had a gift that was stolen from the world too soon. Marilyn often found herself alone in her daughter's room, staring at the things that once filled it with joy: her wedding dress, her textbooks, her engagement ring. Every corner of her house now felt hollow without her presence. The grief was suffocating. But despite it all, Marilyn was determined to honor her daughter's memory. Stephanie's legacy was not just one of kindness and intelligence. It was also one of strength. Marilyn knew that her daughter would want her to fight for the safety of others, to make sure no one else had to experience what they had. The Leeton community, too, was affected in ways that were hard to explain. A town that prided itself on being close-knit had been torn apart by a crime so vile that it left people questioning their own safety. Teachers, students, parents, and townspeople all felt the ripple effects of Stephanie's loss. They had lost more than just a teacher. They had lost a piece of their own identity. Chapter 8. The Twin Brothers' Role. The arrest of Marcus Stanford, Vincent's twin brother, was another blow to the community. The fact that Marcus had been complicit in the crime was difficult for many to understand. How could someone so close to Vincent, someone who had grown up alongside him, shared his life, help him cover up such a heinous act? Marcus claimed he didn't know the full extent of what his brother had done. But his actions, selling Stephanie's rings, destroying her driver's license, and helping him destroy evidence, spoke volumes. He had actively participated in the cover-up, and he had done so without remorse. The legal system had little mercy for Marcus. Though his sentence was only 15 months for his role in the crime, the community saw this as a stark reminder of the dangers of enabling such horrific behavior. It wasn't just Vincent who was guilty. It was the people who helped him hide the truth. Chapter 9. Justice for Stephanie. As the trial of Vincent Stanford moved forward, the courtroom was filled with a heavy sense of dread and anticipation. Stephanie's family sat in the gallery, their hearts breaking as they listened to the details of the crime that had taken their beloved daughter, sister, and fiancé. Aaron, still deeply mourning the loss of the woman he had planned to marry, could hardly bring himself to listen to the horrors as they were read aloud. The images of his fiancée's brutal death flashed before his eyes every moment, haunting his every thought. Vincent Stanford, sitting in the defendant's chair, displayed no emotion as the prosecution laid out the gruesome details of Stephanie's murder. His indifference sent a shiver down the spine of anyone who was there. The coldness in his eyes, the lack of remorse, was a chilling testament to the monster hidden within him. As Vincent Stanford pled guilty to murder and aggravated sexual assault on July 5, 2016, the court proceedings came to an end. The judge sentenced Vincent to life in prison for the murder of Stephanie Scott, with an additional 15 years for the sexual assault charge. The sentence, while final, could never truly bring justice to Stephanie's family. How could any sentence compensate for the loss of their beloved daughter, whose life had been stolen by someone so devoid of empathy, so deeply disturbed? For Aaron, the conviction of Vincent Stanford offered no closure. No amount of justice could fill the void left by Stephanie's death. He was left to piece together the fragments of his life, trying to move forward while carrying the weight of grief on his shoulders. The thought that someone so evil could have taken away his fiancée, the person he was supposed to share his life with, lingered in his heart like an unhealed wound. Stephanie's family also faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives. As much as they wanted to scream at the injustice of it all, they also knew they had to honor Stephanie's memory in a way that would make her proud. They kept her spirit alive in their hearts by dedicating themselves to making sure her story was not forgotten and that no one else would face the same tragedy. Chapter 10. Moving Forward. As the months passed, the trauma of Stephanie's murder remained an ever-present cloud hanging over the lives of those who loved her. But as time went on, a small light began to shine through the darkness. Aaron, after years of trying to cope with the loss, decided to leave Leeton. The town, which had once been a place of peace and happiness, had now become a painful reminder of everything he had lost. He moved to Europe, seeking a fresh start, a way to escape the unbearable weight of his memories. In Europe, he met Samantha, a woman who would eventually help him heal from the pain of losing Stephanie. Their relationship grew slowly, carefully, as Aaron remained cautious about giving his heart to someone else. But Samantha was patient, understanding his grief and allowing him the time he needed to process his trauma. They eventually became engaged, though Aaron knew he would always carry the memory of Stephanie in his heart. For Stephanie's family, the journey of healing was a long one. They continued to honor Stephanie by dedicating themselves to her students, keeping her memory alive in the classroom. Her mother, Marilyn, often spoke about her daughter's passion for teaching, her love for life, and the way she touched everyone she met. Though Stephanie's physical presence was gone, her legacy lived on in the hearts of the students she had mentored and the people who loved her. The legacy of Stephanie Scott. Though Stephanie Scott's life was tragically cut short, the impact she had on the world is undeniable. Aaron, Stephanie's family, her students, and the entire town of Leeton will never forget the joy she brought to their lives. Her love for teaching and commitment to her students left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. She was more than just a teacher. She was a mentor, a friend, and a source of light in an often dark world. In the aftermath of her murder, Stephanie's family has worked to ensure that her memory lives on. They have advocated for stronger mental health screenings for employees working in schools and other public institutions. They have pushed for better safety measures to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. Though they could never undo the pain of losing their loved one, they were determined to ensure that Stephanie's legacy would inspire change, and that the lessons she taught would continue to resonate for years to come. The story of Stephanie Scott is a reminder of the preciousness of life and the evil that can sometimes lurk in the most unsuspecting places. It also highlights the resilience of those who love, those who continue to fight, and those who never forget the people they've lost. Stephanie's story may have ended in tragedy, but her spirit will forever live on in the hearts of those who loved her. Thank you for joining us for today's Beneath the Surface, the dark side of crime story. If this case left you with questions, or if you want to share your thoughts, please feel free to leave a comment below. Like and subscribe for more gripping, true crime stories that delve into the dark and unexpected corners of the human psyche. Join us next time for another case that explores the mysteries lurking beneath the surface.